Welcome everyone to another SolidCAD CTC software webinar. I'm Keely Vickerson, Industry Account Manager with SolidCAD, and with me is Drew Jarvis, our AEC Technical Consultant. Today we want to introduce you to a fairly new tool on the BIM Manager suite, the Family Preview Manager, and this is a free tool. We're going to be going over a fairly comprehensive introduction and talk about what this free tool can do for you and how it can really help you in your workflows. So Drew, I'll let you go ahead with our discussion.
Thanks, Keely. So our agenda is shown here. We're going to be taking a look at how to set up the rules for the tool, which will ensure that the process is repeatable. We'll run a test on an active family, i.e. an open family file, and then we'll see how to run those settings on multiple files so that you know how to process your entire library. We will end by taking a look at how you can get the tool on your workstation to make use of this tool. And one of the great things about this particular tool, it's inside the BIM Manager suite, but it's one of the free tools. So this will keep working even if you don't have a purchase license. Now, the challenge that this tool addresses is an important one to do with first impressions. So the first thing you see when you're going to load in a family is going to be the little preview that shows up. Now that preview could be in Windows Explorer, or it could be in the Revit Open or Load dialog box. The problem with these previews is that they're kind of hard to customize and they're hard to be consistent on. So every family needs to be set up individually, and so it needs to be the active view in your family. And some of these views, you will be setting them up in certain ways to edit the file, and that isn't necessarily how you want to view it on a preview. So for example, in a tag, you're going to want to see the reference plane so you know where the intersection is, the origin, but you don't want to see those reference planes when you come to see in the preview, right? So the previews end up being something that gets forgotten, they're not standardized, and they just end up with images like I've got on the screen there with plan views, 3D views, front elevation views, all different types of views, looking completely inconsistent. So this tool is available on the CTC BIM Manager Suite. You can see the top right there, I've got my BIM Manager Suite panel, and it's showing me the light blue tools, which are the free tools, and then the darker blue tools on the right-hand side, which are the licensed tools. Now, once we open up the BIM Manager, the Family Preview Manager, what we're going to get is the dialog box that shows us where we can select files. So it's a very simple dialog. It's going to show us we can either run it on the active family document, or we can batch run it on a bunch of files. Not much really goes on in there. Really, the power of this tool is inside options. So when you click on options, you're going to get a couple of dialog boxes on different tabs there, one for general settings, one for appearance settings. And so the general settings, you're going to see there the ability to make sure backup files are cleaned up, making sure that reference planes aren't going to be shown, the name of the view that it's going to create inside of the family, that type of thing. Inside of the appearance tab is where you're going to see the settings for things like what is the angle that we're going to be looking at when we make the preview, what's the visual style that's going to be, what is the view scale, these types of things. Okay, so we set up a bunch of settings inside of options. We can then save those if we want to, so that it's a repeatable process on multiple libraries, or just when you get new families moving forward, you want to just run it and make sure your previews are all looking good. Okay, so it's not going to be too much PowerPoint. In fact, it's not going to be a really long presentation today. I'm going to keep you around for another about 15 minutes. I'm just going to show you a demo of it, and we'll see how it works, how easy it is to use. Okay, so let's pop over into Revit and take a look. Okay, so first of all, here's my CTC software ribbon. On here, you'll see that I've got the different suites installed, and one of them that we're going to be focusing on today is going to be the BIM Manager Suite. On the left-hand side here, I've got my free tools, and this is where I'll find my Family Preview Manager. So if I open up the tool, As I said, the initial dialog box that you're going to be presented with, it's either giving us access to the active family, which I don't have one open yet, so I can't use that, or the ability to add files, add folders if we want to, recursively look through those folders and find all the files inside of them. We also then have options down here for whether we're going to be overwriting the family or if we want to save it to a new location. And so maybe we don't want to necessarily trust it straight away because you were just getting to use the product for the first time. So we want to do a couple of practices, see what happens. So we're not going to overwrite our company standards, but we're just going to save it out to a new folder, check everything's good. Once we're comfortable, we can then use the overwrite family. The main work, though, happens inside options here. So before I go into there, let's take a little look at some of the family content that I've got in my folder here. So I'm going to go to open, and I'm going to go into my content folder. Taking a look indoors here. Right now, as I click on it, you can see on the right-hand side, I see my preview. This particular family is in a plan view with a bunch of dimensions, reference planes, maybe text and things like that inside of there. The next one down, though, maybe looks a little bit more how I want to see them. So just a front elevation view with a shaded representation. Next one down, though, is off in a, an isometric view, slightly offset to the left, it seems. Next one is okay. Next one, I guess, is a door. Who knows? It's just a bunch of reference planes as far as I can see there. And we probably have a similar type of stuff inside the annotations folder here. There you go. There's the area tag, which is kind of showing the showing some of the things. It would look pretty similar. Let me check out the architectural folder here. There we go. There's a good example. So this particular family here, the reference planes have been turned on, and these reference planes are much, much larger than the tag itself. And so all you can see are the reference planes. The tag is in there. It's just very, very tiny. It's a couple of pixels right at the intersection of these reference planes here. And so this is the type of thing that this tool is going to standardize and fix up for us. So maybe I'll open up one of these. Let's take a look at the casework tag, which has this zoom out. Okay, so as I zoom on in here, we'll see, this is what the tag is actually made of. And so, just moving out off to the side a little bit. Yeah, this is kind of what we want to be seeing there. The reference planes we don't. So what would we do if we wanted to see it properly? Well, I could go into my visibility graphics. I could go into my annotation categories and maybe just turn them off, click OK, and I'm left with kind of what it is that I actually want to see in my preview. But remembering to do that every time that you are editing a family can be a bit frustrating, because for me, I want to know where my reference planes are because that's the origin of my family. So I want to make sure that it's lining up close by. It's not off 3 meters to the right, and so when I place it, it tags really strangely. So we should be able to fix that type of thing, so it doesn't look like that. Okay, so if I pop into my tool again, you see now that the active family document is available as something I'm going to run it on. But let's take a look at the options. Inside my options here, a few basics. So, am I going to remember where this window is and how big it is? Because it may have started, this big or whatever, and off to the side on a different screen. So it's just, do you want to remember that? Do you want to clean up your backup files? I would say this is a good one because we don't want to get those 0001, however many zeros there are, 0002, 0003, all these backup files of these RFA files all over the place. IT is not going to be happy if you're suddenly creating hundreds of additional files all over the place. So cleaning up the backup files is going to get rid of those backups. But again, you don't really want to do that unless you're confident in what's being produced. So you might not have that turned on the first time, then you do a couple of little files for practice. Now, what the tool is actually going to do is it's going to create a view inside of the family, if it can. Now, some of the families you can't make new views. I'm going to guess maybe like the tag family, for example. But if we're looking at a component family for a door, it's going to make a view. It's going to call it whatever we put in here. So in my case, I put solidcad_preview. That view is going to be the one that it's going to set as the active view, and it's going to be the one that's used for the preview. So you can see here some options for things like setting it as the active view. Enabling the preview visibility is something I have turned on. If you're not aware of what that is, It's only been around for a couple of releases, but it's been there a few years now. Essentially, if you take some geometry in your model in your family and you say that it's not going to be visible under certain circumstances, so maybe it's not visible in a certain type, or it's not visible at fine, it's only visible at coarse. That type of stuff doesn't show up correctly unless you activate the preview visibility. So it used to be that you'd have to load it into your project to take a look at what it really looks like, but the preview visibility in the family editing kind of takes care of that. Now that's a good thing to have set on, because then you can really control what the family is going to look like in the preview. Then really I've just got a bunch of things turned off. I don't want to see my dimensions, reference lines, things like that inside of the preview, so I'm just turning them off. Most of the hard work though happens inside of here, inside of the appearance settings. Now essentially what we have is some default settings for what everything is going to look like. So I want to say that in general, if I'm doing a bunch of plumbing fixtures and mechanical equipment and air terminals, you can kind of see my background. I want to look at those from southwest isometric, so left, front, top, I guess is the thing there, right? So I can pick the view that my default is going to use. I'm also then going to say, well, in general, I want to see shaded or shaded with edges or realistic or whatever. So I pick that as my default. I've got my detail level I can pick here. Also have my view scale. Now, why is the view scale important? Well, this is going to relate to your line weights. So if you have it at a very large scale like this one, you're going to get big chunky lines on there. If you have it too small, you're perhaps not going to see lines. So when you say realistic with edges, you're not going to see those edges. So I find a 1 to 4 scale is pretty good. So that's what I'm picking in my list there. So these will apply to everything unless you apply some overrides. And so for overrides, what we have are these appearance templates down here. So I've created an override for opening categories and plan 2D categories, as I've termed it. Now, you can call them whatever you want, but my openings, that's going to be my doors and my windows. I want my doors and windows not to show southwest isometric. I want them to show front elevation. And my openings, sorry, my plans, my 2D stuff, that's going to be my details and things like that. I want them showing up as a plan view. So yeah, just you can create these appearance templates here. So let's say, for example, I wanted to show my air terminals as a plan view as well. What I could do is I could make myself a new template. So I'll call this my plan view 3D. Inside of here, what I'll do is I'll say, yeah, I want to see my plan view for floor, and I want to see it as shaded at a fine detail level and 1 to 4 for my line work. So now I've got a new template down here. I'll make this one a little bit bigger. There we go. So I've got my plan view 3D. What I can do is I can say certain categories are going to use that template. So over here, I've got my air terminals, drag it over, when I highlight it in one side, highlight it in the other, and then I've got my green assign to throw it in there. Now you notice it doesn't just put air terminals in there. We've got air terminals that are ceiling-based, air terminals that are face-based, air terminals that are other types of based. That's important because let's say you had, going back to my plumbing fixtures idea, if you had a plumbing fixture that is face-based and you had one that is wall-based, you'll notice when you edit those families that they're oriented differently. One of them kind of looks right where it's on the wall, and one of them kind of looks wrong where someone's taken it and flipped it 90 degrees. So picking the plan view in one and the other is going to result in a different thing, right? So you might find that different hosting is going to require different templates. Okay. Now, once that's all set up, and it doesn't take too long, but it takes some effort, you might want to save those settings just to make sure that if you're going to use it in the future on another set of files, you're going to have access to it. So you can just save the settings. And then if you need them, you can go and load those settings. Just makes kind of a little text file, save it on your system, save it near your library in a folder that you'll know where that is, and then you can load it up again in the future. Okay, so if I wanted to run it on the active document, that is this one here with the giant reference planes, I should be able to maybe say, let's save it out to a new location. So I'm going to go browse and throw this one into my CTC webinars here. And I've got my content. Maybe I'll make a new folder here for testing. Not resting, that comes up after testing. Okay, there's my testing folder. Okay, so I'm going to hit process. Okay, now this one did give me an error. Gotta love live stuff. That's okay though. Oh no, it's not. This is often an indication memory is crap. Whoa, that's a cool one. Okay, wasn't expecting that. Live presentations. Okay, I'm going to close it down and just see what it did. Okay, so I'm going to go to that folder. Pop into my content here. Up one level, it was in testing. Okay, so it didn't make it. All right, let's try that on a bunch because hey, this worked earlier. So I'm going to go into my family preview manager, and I've still got all the same settings in my options. So if I go and look inside of here, you can see the thing I just made, plan view 3D. That's all there. That's good. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and add a few files in here. So I had some doors, I think kind of the first 5 or 6 there. Let's go and add those. Going to add in a few more here for the annotation. So I think it was in the architectural folder, if I remember correctly. So I add a few of those. I don't want to add quite a few, but not too many. What I found for my testing is you're looking at about 3 to 4 seconds per family. It's really fast when it processes these. And so if I pick, 20 or 30 of these, we shouldn't be waiting more than a minute, which will be some riveting time. Maybe we can think of some things to talk about. There's photos in there. I'm going to hit process. I'm overwriting them where they are. I'm just going to hit process, and you'll see it's going to start flipping through these families. You can see the little green progress bar is moving along pretty quick. And so, yeah, it's not going to take too long to get them. Okay, so what we should find is that we have now then a standard look to the results. In fact, I could even cheat by popping into my Windows Explorer and taking a look, but we're getting there. We've only got half a thing left. While it's doing that, why don't we take a look at where we can get the tool from? So if I go into the website here, you can see I've got my ctcsoftware.com, nice and easy to get to, and I've got my products drop down. Inside of the products, you're going to find the different suites available here. So this one's going to be the BIM Manager suite. And here we can request the download. Right here. And so if we click on that one, it'll give us a link for our download and we can get access to that. You notice there it mentions 14 days. What that's talking about is that you're going to get access to all of the tools inside of the BIM Manager. There we go, as a trial for 14 days. And of course, you'll get access to all of the free tools even after that. So just use that same link to download it, whether you're looking for the free tools or a trial for 14 days of the paid for tools. So here we can see that we get a report at the end indicating that the process has been successful. So you'll be able to save this out if you wanted to record this as a log, or certainly you can just see here that we don't have any problems with the conversion or the updating. Let's take a look at the actual families now. So I'm going to close down this one. I'm going to go and open my family. And we'll see inside of our content folder, if I go into the doors and take a look at it now, all the doors now have a preview, which is showing consistently what they look like. Similarly, if I go to my annotations and into my architecture, you can see now I'm not seeing those reference planes. It's zoomed in nicely on the actual tag information. And in fact, if I go into the air handlers, which I didn't show before, but the previous ones were wireframe, and you can see now I've updated them to be shaded, and the same thing with the air terminals. But these ones, as you can see, are now from above. So that was originally looking like this, but I changed them using that template, if you remember, so that they were a plan 3D representation. Okay, so thank you very much for taking the time to join us today and view the webinar. Thanks from myself and Keely. And
yeah,
any last words?
just feel free to reach out with any other questions.